YouTube. Thank you for joining me for Real Newsblast, Episode 6. Pennsylvania 18, Deregulation, Assassination. Our first story. Republican Rep Tim Murray of PA 18 resigned after it surfaced that he got a woman pregnant that encouraged her to have an abortion. He is pro-life, by the way. Governor Wolf then called a special election for March 13th to fill the seat. Connor Lamb emerged as the Democratic candidate and Rick Saccone as the Republican candidate. It had been held by a Republican since 2003. Now, the districts will be changed soon enough because of a court-ordered map from the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. I made a video about this and I'll link it below. So they may not run in the same PA 18 as was drawn when the election's results are finished and certified. So the setup here is Connor Lamb versus Rick Saccone. Surrogates from both sides, Biden for the Democrats and Trump for the Republicans, had a huge prize on the line here. If Republicans keep it, it bodes well for the midterm elections. If Democrats turn it, it would be a positive sign for the Democrats. More time had passed and Westmoreland was not reporting their results, but soon enough the votes were tallied with 627 votes separating Connor Lamb and Rick Saccone. The race got called for Lamb. There were about 200 votes to count, but it would not have made the gulf up between the two. So the Republicans were saying that, they were trying to spin it as a victory for them, that Lamb had ran on some of the things the GOP ran on to win, but of course we know that is not true. So now that a Democrat represents the seats and it's such a large swing from 2016, I'm wondering if that means that by and large suburban voters are starting to turn on Trump. This remains to be seen in November. Next story. Bipartisanism is a word people like to hear so they can feel good about legislation being passed. People working together like normal Americans do, regardless of political stripes. But when both are owned by corporations, it's par for the course when it benefits their donors. A bill was passed to undermine Dodd-Frank. Yes, Dodd-Frank, that was a good start, but needs to be strengthened. And I say we need to be draconian with financial crimes, just like the DOJ is with marijuana offenses when the possessor has a brown face, but I'm not going to hold my breath. So this is what the legislation does. It allows JP Morgan, Chase, and Citibanks to hold less capital relative to their assets, another Dodd-Frank provision. Another one would give firms the ability to give free credit freezes, although critics complain that the measure would also preempt more generous state and local laws and allow employers and insurance companies to still look at those reports. And it would also give Equifax and other credit monitoring firms a leg up in the mortgage business. Other parts of the bill would exempt the banks with less than $10 billion in assets from the Volcker Rule, which prohibits risky bets with bank money. And it would also, and one that would weaken the government's ability to ensure non-discrimination in lending against women and people of color. It would be easier for a bank to hide such practices under the Senate bill, as well as hiding predatory lending practices. It would also say that banks with assets of $50 billion and more would be too big to fail. Red state Democrats like Joe Manchin, Heidi Heitkamp, Joe Donnelly, Claire McCaskill, and John Tester are supportive of this bill and are some of the ones that are up for re-election this year. Some do face primary challenges, and I hope that those sitting senators lose over their support of this bill. Democrats can't claim to be for the people when they support this kind of legislation, which allows them to discriminate against the people. Our last story. Marielle Franco is a prominent Brazilian councilwoman who was executed on March 14th around 9:30 p.m. She was elected in 2016 to Rio de Janeiro City Council, a part of a wave of black Brazilians who are making their voices heard in government. She is of the neighborhood Favela de Mare, a poor community with police brutality, which she has spoken against on Twitter. She was named to a committee to keep a close eye on the military police operations in the Akari community, which she is also part of. Around 9:30 on March 14th, after leaving a black women's empowerment event, she and another person were both killed, and the other that she was with at the time had suffered shrapnel wounds. It goes on to show that the powers that be are afraid of our defiant voices when we assert ourselves. We're seeing that people are actually killing Black Lives Matter activists. They ignore the cause of Haitian Americans. They arrest, they kill, they fight, they jail whenever we raise our voices against the status quo, and they will do whatever they can to silence us. But they can't silence the revolution. They couldn't silence the civil. They can't silence civil rights. They can't silence everyone. They cannot. It is impossible. Oppression breeds the opposite of that which it was intended. So many people are taking on the mantle that Marielle has donned her whole life. And while they can kill the revolutionary, they can't kill the revolution. But then again, they can keep track on every movement of those who are fighting against oppression. However, the FBI needs a bomber in Austin to contact them. Thank you for joining me for the coverage of the special election, the deregulation effort, and the assassination of Marielle Franco. If you want more real news blasts like this, just please rate, comment, subscribe, share even, because I'd like to get the word out and keep doing more of these episodes so that people are actually informed about things all over the world and in our own backyard. I will also be shouting out a few of other independent media that you can subscribe to, and make sure you click the bell to get notified whenever they upload a new video. Unfortunately, YouTube is in fact unsubscribing people from independent media, and it's all about making sure that it's basically using Russia to pipe corporate news. Independent media is important because it covers a lot of things that many people may not quite know is going on. Thank you so much for joining me for Real News Blast. Episode 7 is coming up soon. Thank you.